the most important event on the squash calendar this year, as the high-tech Super Series Tour coincides with the World Open. And where better to stage such an important showdown than the land of the Pharaohs? But as the sun sets, the tension rises in one of the most dramatic sporting arenas in the world. In a country where squash ranks alongside soccer in popularity, there couldn't be more fanatical crowd following for the best in the world. And this is how the best players in the world stand. Jonathan Power just holding on to the #1 spot after losing at the last round in Hong Kong. Nicol in search of the one crown he's never held. And Barada, the man with the home crowd advantage. And there's plenty of others ready to spoil the party. We join the competition after the top 64 players in the world have been whittled down to the final 4. They still include the top 3 seeds, accompanied by Martin Heath from Scotland, who always seems to do so well at this Ahram event. Simon Park, Anthony Hill, Paul Johnson and Mark Challoner couldn't hold them back, but they did make life difficult. Power and Nicol both having to go to 4 games to get through to the semis. But Nicol has been pacing himself for this one. After being #1 in the world, winning the famous British Open and the Commonwealth Games, he badly wants this world title. But how have his preparations been going up to the event?
With a good win in Hong Kong, I had a great summer's training and changing my game to play more attacking, exciting squash. It seemed to work so far. So yeah, I'm very confident coming into the semi. But thinking back to last year, I'd like to avenge that loss and get to the final of this year's World Open. Well, I'm not playing till later on this evening, so it'll be quite cool by then. But there's a bit of a wind, which I imagine will pick up later on in the evening again. So maybe a few particles of sand and such in the air, which is fairly bizarre when you're playing squash. But yeah, it is quite difficult. At certain things, you lob the ball up, it moves in the air. But at the same time, it's great. I mean, it's a fantastic setting.
Nicol, the ultimate professional, sounds perfectly in control. And indeed, his scores so far suggest he's just that, just doing enough to make his way through to the semis. But it all looked that way last year, before fellow Scotsman Martin Heath upset the form book again in the semi-finals. No wonder the Heath family were dancing in the street. It was the first time Heath had beaten Nicol since they were playing together at 13 years old. They haven't met on the tour since, and although Heath's matches have been a little tougher through the qualifying, he's still sounding very confident indeed.
Last year it was a little bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting it myself. I didn't really prepare for it so well. But this year, I put in a lot of work, and every single loss that I've had, I haven't taken it too hard over the year because I knew I was preparing for this tournament. And I've made a lot of predictions about this one, and it's coming true so far. So I'm in with the top 3. There's definitely a top 3 in the ranking list at the moment, and I'm in with the big 3. So I don't think anyone will be expecting me to get further than this. But I've put in a lot of work to this game, and I'm really very focused this time. And I had a couple of hard matches early on in the tournament, and maybe my experience probably brought me through those. I wasn't playing particularly well. And that's the thing that I'm hoping to pin on to, just my patience, my discipline, and hopefully I've got nothing to lose anymore, so I'm going to be free as a bird as well.
So the dramatic scene set, time to bring in our match commentators, Robert Edwards and Chris Robertson.
So, the biggest tournament of the year, probably of the century, with Martin Heath, the Scottish #2 and world #5 in the all-blue kit, versus his fellow countryman, Scottish #1 and world #2, Peter Nicol in the white top. What a match in prospect, what a setting, right next to the wonderful pyramids here in Giza. And Robbo, 2 players, top of the game, perfect setting, could be the perfect match.
Well, it's certainly going to shape up as a tasty encounter. Both players, a lot of respect for each other, but certainly not frightened of beating each other. Martin, obviously success over Peter last year here in the Ahram tournament. He was very comfortable here in Egypt and has played some great squash leading up to now.
And there, an example of it, terrific little boast, taking the first point to go 1-love. And a lot more at stake here. 2 Scottish players, both fighting for #1 Scottish spot, both believing that they're the best in the world. I spoke to Martin before this, and he truly believes it's his destiny to win this. But if you speak to Peter Nicol, he'll say the same.
Well, certainly Martin's not short of confidence. He's hit another good length there, but he does play very well in Egypt. He's got to cover a lot of points this year from success last year in the Ahram tournament, so his motivation is high in that respect. And he does have a game of squash which causes Peter an awful lot of problems when he gets it going right. Peter does struggle to read the use of the wrist that Martin is well known for.
And there a stroke. Peter Nicol over the last year has added probably a new dimension to his game, Robbo.
Well, certainly he's a lot more aggressive in his outlook in the game. He's looking to attack the ball a lot more and take the ball forward. That cutting edge is certainly improving, and it's a part of his game that he has got to get the blend right here today. I don't think he wants to mess around too much with Martin around the front of the court, because his use of wrist and his deception is something that a lot of players do struggle on the circuit to deal with, and shots like that as well.
Yes, that was a delight. And it's a balmy night here. There's a little wind. Crowd at this moment quite subdued, but it's Martin Heath has got away to a bit of a runner, 4-1 in the first game. And Peter Nicol will be hoping to put the brakes on this.
The other reason as well, Robert, that Martin does well on this squash court is it's quite sharpish off the front wall. The ball does tend to move very quickly to the back of the court, so if he can hold the ball and flick it and use the strong wrist he possesses, he's able to get a lot of the opponents moving backwards under a great deal of pressure.
Pack gallery being treated to quite a match now, 10-9. Martin Heath just 1 point ahead of his big rival Peter Nicol, and the match is just starting to boil nicely. Has all the ingredients.
And I have to say at the moment Martin looks very, very comfortable with everything that's going on at the moment. Again, good use on the forehand side of the wrist, a little bit of hold and whipped across. He's sort of containing Peter very well, and he's dictating the pace of the game.
And 2 point lead. How much would he like to get this first game under his belt? Of course, still a long way to go, but the early signs that Martin Heath is playing very well, and it's Peter Nicol who's having to hang on to him.
I think from the success of Martin in this match, I think the first game is pretty pivotal though, Robert. Somebody that mentally has weak points. I'm not sure he can come back from great deficits and big matches, but he's a great front runner.
Well, Scotland should be proud of these two men. They both come from small villages. Peter Nicol from Inverurie in Scotland, and on the west coast of Scotland is the home of Martin Heath, Oban. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of people hanging on the result of this tonight. And it's Martin Heath 12-10 up in this first semi-final, first game. And the crowd quiet now. Probably the best audience I've ever seen in my life here in Cairo. They really love their squash. 2,500 people here enjoying every moment of it. And the squash is good quality. Lots of thought.
Again, good use of that forehand flick cross court. It's really a case at the moment. Peter seems to be working a little bit harder, I think, than he would like. And that's a good use of the drop shot. That's the correct time. Got Martin behind him there. Knew it was the right time. Can't use your wrist if you can't get to the ball.
Just 1 point separating them. Martin Heath concentrating so hard. A boy who has unbelievable belief in himself, and when he's playing balls as well as that, you can see why. 13-11 now.
And good choice there. Been playing those forehands cross court the majority of the game. Chose the right time to take it straight. And again, he's caught Peter on his heels.
14-11. Game ball to Martin Heath to go 1 love up in this first semi-final of the Ahram World Open. So a big point. Peter Nicol won't give it to him easily, that's for sure. And Martin Heath at the moment absolutely concentrating so hard and puts the ball away to take the first game. 15-11. And both players now leaving the court to take on some water and a rub down in this case. David, his brother, looking after Martin, himself an international squash player.
And the final point, you see pretty much what happened in the whole game. Martin controlling the pace, dictating a little bit too much. Good length ball down the forehand wall. Squeezing the boast out of Peter. Nice tight backhand drop shot. Looking for the next volley. It's game over.
Will the memories of last year's upset now come back to haunt him, or can he put them out of his mind? Let's find out as we rejoin Robert Edwards and Chris Robertson courtside.
Peter Nicol, probably the highest concentration levels of any player on the circuit today, Robbo.
Well, certainly Martin's going to be expecting a backlash here. 1 love down, Peter's got to get this game under his belt. I just think he's got to get Martin at the back of the court a little bit more, Robert. I thought he had too many opportunities in the front forehand to work Peter and to win 3 points, and I think he needs to steel himself up a little bit, start squeezing him a little bit deeper. If he can do that, then he's going to ask questions about Martin's temperament and technique.
Well, 1 love Peter Nicol in this second game, and Martin still looking very good at the front of the court. Lovely straight tight drop there, pushed into the right hand side, brings him back into hand 1-all, and the 2 Scotsmen head to head here. And the winners, well, really all of us spectators, because they're producing or starting to produce a classic.
Well, the worrying thing for Peter at the moment, Robert, I would say, is the efficiency of Martin's game and the confidence levels he seems to be admitting. He seems very, very calm, he seems very controlled. Every time he's had an opportunity like that, he's able to hit a good length, whether it be front or back.
Rarely do you see Peter Nicol looking ragged, and there he was being dragged around the court. This man, he's got his foot on the ball and he's controlling the pace at the moment. But Peter Nicol, what a competitor. He won't be happy with that. And Neil Harvey urging his man on, coach to Peter Nicol.
I think that's a byproduct of the pressure that Martin's put on him so far, Robert. You know, a drop shot that maybe Peter wouldn't have normally played with the technique. Another sign of frustration. He's really got to address this slide now. Great front runner Martin is. Can destroy people if you allow him.
And he's broken away nicely in the second game. 4-1, Martin Heath is leading. And still looking good at the front, and now it's 5-1. I haven't seen Peter Nicol on the end of anything like this for a long time. Martin's really playing the perfect game for him. Frustration for Peter Nicol. But he's a great player. Won everything in the game except the World Open title. And he wants it. And that boast finding the top of the tin. And with it the score, 2-5, Peter Nicol serving. It can't get any tighter than this. 12 all in this second game, and how much does Peter Nicol need this? If he were to lose it and go 2-love down, it would mean a major mountain for him to climb. And from Martin's point of view, desperate to go 2-love up. The crowd are certainly hushed, Robbo. Big point.
And that's a good lead there from Peter. Right time to leave it. Nice 3-point stroke from the referee. I think he needs it desperately, Robert. I think if he doesn't take this game, he's going to find it too long and hard to come back. He's worked very, very hard to hold on to Martin Heath in this second game. Martin is still controlling the tempo, still taking good options.
We talk about big points. They don't get much bigger than this. 13-12, Peter Nicol leading in the second game and desperately needing it. Martin's still moving well, but now it's Peter Nicol who's stepped up onto the tee and looking positive. Now Martin in the driving seat. It's going back and forth for both players. Both of them showing us some unbelievable court movement. Big rally and a major point. Now Peter really in control here.
Just a couple of signs there, Robert, that Martin a little bit more tired. Movement's getting a little bit more laboured as Peter's starting to work the ball.
It's not easy out there. A real cauldron. Both players having to take a lot of oxygen on. And the quality of squash is sensational, considering the match. Oh, and what a recovery from Peter Nicol, playing a backwall post. But now, Martin Heath screams and takes the point. His brother cheers him on, David.
And that hurt both players. Both players looking for a corner to get a rest. Still a couple of points to go.
Like boxers trying not to show they've been hurt, but that hurt. Both digging deep. Their shirts absolutely soaked in the labour of their sweat. 13 all. Oh, what a place to be. And it keeps bubbling. Not for the weak-hearted, and Peter Nicol, his girlfriend Sally there in the crowd, looking nervous, but cheering him on.
Well, that was a great classy rally there from Peter.
And it gives him 14-13. Game ball. How he needs this. The big points seem to follow one after the other at the moment. And Scotland will be holding its breath on this. Two great ambassadors for the country. Two terrific players fighting out on the biggest stage in the World Open. And it's Peter Nicol who plays the drop and quickly leaves the court. 1 game all. And Peter Nicol back to his corner. And a little relief as his father, Pat, leans over and gives him some encouragement.
Really was a case of Peter Nicol taking this game away from Martin Heath. At the business end, did play some good aggressive shots. Good length down the backhand wall, forcing the loose ball. Early movement in, quick tight drop shot.
So with Peter having taken the third set 15-9, you wonder if they can contain this same sort of intensity into the fourth. Peter, such a determined character. If you had to put your money on somebody to fight for you, he's the man with the mental attitude that everybody so admires. But Martin is playing the match of his life, because it takes two to make a match, and my goodness me, for me, Robbo, this has been the match of the tournament.
Well, it's clearly the best one to date. And just going back on the other point, I just wonder, Martin seemed to have a little bit of a rest at stages in that third game. I wonder whether he's resigned himself to the fact that he's got to come in this fourth and try and win this game to put some pressure on for a fifth game. Traditionally very fast out of the traps.
Yes, and he's proved that through this match. And again, off with the first point in this fourth game. So hard. Mentally, you've got to keep getting yourself up. It really is oxygen debt, intensity. It's all here.
I think the other factor as well, Robert, is a lot warmer here this year than other previous years. So obviously the dehydration and the energy levels are getting tested maybe a little bit earlier than in previous times.
And I think it has to be said that these players have really got on with the match. Now a little tiredness creeping in. Possibly we'll see a few more lets and appeals, but they've really been prepared to hunt the ball down and play the points. And it's Martin who, as you said, has come out of the traps that much quicker, and he's 3-love up in this fourth. But Peter Nicol, that tremendous little straight drop. All you amateur players out there, that's the one to watch for. Energy saving.
It's important that Peter does keep taking the ball to the front now at the right times. If Martin still is tired, he does need to keep working in full court, make him move to the front at the right times. So far, you can't question his blend. He's 2-1 up.
Yes, it's turning into a classic, and we thought the possibilities, it was all here, all the ingredients, and these two guys are giving us an absolute dream semi-final. Scotland should be so pleased to have two players of this character, and they even have John White at number 3 in the Scottish team, so a galaxy of stars from the country.
And again, another evidence there of Martin achieving the good length that he did in the first game and a half. Squeezing Peter to the back, forcing the boast, and able to put the next ball away for a winner.
And this 4-1 lead, he really has to hang on to it. He has to develop it. Peter, they say that at this stage of the match, he's supposedly the best in the world. He's a fierce competitor.
Oh, there we
Oh,
are.
little top spin forehand. Peels to his brother David. Gives it a little applause.
Well, I'm not sure if he's feeling incredibly confident or he's had a little bit of a concentration lapse there, but got him the point.
Martin, of course, from a very intelligent family. Both of his parents teachers, head teachers, I think. And his brother David, who's in the corner, a French teacher who's given it up to work as a professional coach. And I know Martin values him in his corner. Neil Harvey looking a little tense as the score goes to 2-5 Peter Nicol. And Martin 11-8 up. Desperate to get this to 2-all. 2-1 down in games. And there's been no giving of anything cheap by either player. They've both put in a professional job and still working well.
There's a bit of luck there for Martin. Went to play a straight drop, caught the frame and moved through the middle of the court. And a 4-point gap at this stage, Robert, is a very good achievement because Peter really has thrown everything at him in this fourth to try and break away. Martin's held the gap that he opened up early on.
And if this goes to 5, you're going to have to wonder what they've got left in the tanks. Neil concentrating hard, willing his man on. I'm beginning to sense that these players are sucking deep now, Robbo.
Well, this is a stage where Martin struggled in the second game, Robert. Tended to get a little bit tired towards the end of the game, worked hard to keep his lead and maintain it.
Mustn't let Peter Nicol back in. Martin's got to put the brakes on him. He's dropped 2 points. Come back to 10-12. Little top spin drop there from him, mixing it up. Desperately needs to get back into hand.
Oh,
and he won't do it that way. Oh, the pain was felt there by his brother David.
That was a tired shot as well, Robert.
Yeah, and it's 11-12. Now just 1 point is the picture changing, because you only have to give Peter Nicol a glance at the winning post and he's gone. Oh, that's into him and surely a stroke, and that'll make it 12-all. Martin will rue that cheap point.
And he took Peter forward as well, Robert, at the wrong time. You just get a feeling he's helping Peter, assisting him in bringing him back into this match.
has to do something special. His lead has gone, and you wonder how much that will affect him mentally. He'll be thinking about it. Looked like he had this game all wrapped up, and suddenly he's fighting to stay in the match, because if Peter Nicol gets away here, he'll be in the final. So Martin has to find some new answers for him. But the boy from Inverurie is at the front of the court, and he's controlling things nicely.
Yeah, Peter has stepped up a gear here. He's moved the ball all over, and that was a lovely touch volley.
Martin looking heavenward for inspiration, and Peter Nicol showing the pain of his efforts. But it's 13-12, and he needs 2 points to go into the final. The final that he graced last year when he lost to Jonathan Power. And he's on record as saying this is the one he wants. I want to be the world champion. He's won everything else. Big point. If he takes it, he'll be sitting on match ball. Martin has to control him. And still the quality of squash stays right at the top level. And these players are suffering now. They're really struggling. Physically, this is hurting. You wonder how much more they can take. This is a big rally.
Martin's certainly tired on that backhand lift there, Robert.
Peter will squeeze him. He'll keep him working. He knows how much this is hurting. Although it's hurting for him, he knows. And there, that one tight to the wall. And Sally, desperate for a boyfriend to come through here. Peter Nicol, 14-12. One more point, and he's in the final of the World Open. The one he's said he wants more than any. Martin Heath has let this drift in this game. He's going to regret it. He'll replay these points tonight over and over again. And it's Peter Nicol in the driving seat, and he's taken it. Peter Nicol, with Martin throwing his racket in the air, offers his hand, and there the pain. We have the first finalist of the 1999 Ahram World Open, and it's Peter Nicol.
That's a fitting rally for a great match. Both players using all the court. Good lob there from Peter. Martin trying to knock it down the line. Again, both searching for the length to give them the opportunity to attack. Martin taking the ball down the line. Peter coming across, finding something, putting a great volley drop in.
I lost my length on my forehand side about halfway through the second game, and you know I wasn't out of it at that time, but it just meant I had to do a lot more work, and yeah, that was the key to it. If I'd taken the second game, I think I would have picked up, because when you're winning, you don't feel your tiredness, you know. I mean, really, the way he finished it off in the fourth game, I was still in it, you know. I was playing better squash in the fourth game, and I thought if I could take that one, I started to play more sensible squash at that time. My forehand length was better. If I'd taken that one, I might have had a chance again in the fifth. But you know, he just finished it off so well in the fourth there at the end. Just 5 points, just nothing I could do, you know.
I think he looked incredibly tired in the third, and then towards the end of the fourth again he did. Yeah, it was a tough match. We were physically working so hard, and he was playing at such a pace that there are times when you're going to be tired. It's just a case of those occasions noticing it and pushing forward, and that's what I managed to do.
So Nicol's through, but another exciting semi to come. Welcome back to the Al Ahram World Open here in Egypt, as we now move on to the second of our semi-finals, as this man, local hero Ahmed Barada, prepares to take on world champion Jonathan Power. And who could forget the scenes here last year, as local boy Barada made good, winning an emphatic victory over Martin Heath to become the first Egyptian to win the richest squash event in the world. And looking at his form this year, he could well go all the way. He hasn't been troubled yet, but of course this year the stakes are that much higher. In front of his home crowd, is he going to feel the pressure, or is he going to enjoy it?
No, I love squash. I love playing in front of the people here, and I'll try and I'll do all my best, and then we're going to see what's going to happen. I will first think about this game, and because it's an important game for me, and it's my first time to go to the semi-final of the World Open around the world, and I hope to reach the final today. I'm confident, but I'll try to play a very good match today, because I should play, if I want to win, I should play a good squash today and long match, and I'll see what's going to happen.
Well, it's home crowd a huge advantage then, but that won't faze reigning world champion Jonathan Power. Since winning that prestigious title in Qatar last year, the precocious Canadian has taken over at the top of the world rankings. And he's got an impressive record against the young Egyptian. His form so far shows one dropped game against Simon Park from England in an otherwise straightforward quarter-final. So it's a tough one to call as the Canadian prepares to go head-to-head with a very fired-up Ahmed Barada.
Well, I think I'll just play the same game plan as I normally play, try to drag him into some tough rallies and get him tired. I mean, I haven't lost to him before, so I should be able to sort of maintain that dominance over him mentally and try to work that sort of side of things. Since before Hong Kong, I've had a lot of treatment and a lot of work on my body, and I'm feeling fit and my body's coming around.
So, without further delay, it's back to the magnificent pyramids here in Egypt as a swelling crowd of some 3,000 squash-hungry Egyptians welcome their local hero onto the court, just one step away from a place in the World Open final. Jonathan Power versus Ahmed Barada then, as we go back to the match commentary of Robert Edwards and Chris Robertson.
Ahmed Barada prepares to serve, and he feels that today is his destiny. He has been the squash player to come out of Egypt, a country with a great tradition, and tonight playing the defending world champion Jonathan Power. He truly believes he's going to take this match and go on to take the world title. Jonathan Power with terrific support in his corner. The entire Canadian team are there, led by Gene Turk, the manager, and he'll certainly have Jonathan fired for this. But as you say, Robbo, there has been talk all week about his fitness levels. An amazing character is Jonathan Power, so gifted, so talented, but there is only one Jonathan Power.
Well, certainly the mental capacity of him is another area that's quite often up for debate, and I think that's going to be tested here tonight, obviously with the parochial support for Ahmed, his motivation to succeed.
And he's certainly given that ball quite a wallop. And there the corner for Ahmed Barada on the right, Hisham Atal, and in the middle, Medat Galal, his two coaches. Jonathan Power, one of the most gifted players, one of the most naturally talented players, and he has tonight to blot out this crowd. If he lets them into his head, it could have an effect on his game, because they're certainly going to be screaming for the local boy. Now no let given, and Barada not happy.
It's a tough call, harsh call. Referee may be trying to get the players to get across and play those balls. Don't look for the easy way out.
Certainly the referee's going to have quite a match here to control, possibly.
And it's a good solid start here from John. Type of start he's looking for, try and quiet the crowd down early. And Ahmed really at this stage needs just to keep the ball up and settle his own nerves. He's got to be feeling the pressure, obviously representing Egypt, and again another unforced mistake. I think he just needs to settle down more than anything, keep the ball up. He needs to very much so negate John's skill levels, his ability to control the game. He's proven in the past he can do that. And then again, another mistake from the deep forehand, really snatching at the ball.
It's said that President Mubarak is watching the result of this match, with great interest. When Barada won the Ahram last year, the first call he had was from President Hosni Mubarak, and they're two gentlemen from the Egyptian Squash Rackets Association. And Barada still stays in this game, but it's still game ball to Jonathan Power. 8-14. And Barada's starting to fire a little bit now, and that's the style. Oh! And that does not look good. Jonathan has gone down very heavily, and he has had injuries over the last season or so, and he looks to be in great stress. Let us hope he gets up and is none the worse for the fall, but ooh, that looks bad. He's gone down very heavily.
Total 9-14, game ball.
So still game ball. And watching Jonathan's movement, it seems okay. Yes, let's hope that he's none the worse for that heavy fall. Agreeing with the referee that ball's out of court, and it was, and he's taken the first game 15-9. Well, Barada's going to need all the help he can get in this 2-minute respite from the game, and he has two coaches, Madak Galal and Hisham Attar, and they've got to fire him up. He's got to come back with a better game plan than he had for the first.
John Power's corner, Gene Turk working hard there. He's got to get him to forget about the fall. If he has an injury or a problem, he's got to get away from that. He's one love up. He's just got to keep it going.
The Pharaohs probably would wonder what was going on, but I'm sure they would enjoy the competition as we sit here in Giza, right underneath the wonderful pyramids. The most dramatic setting possibly in world sport, let alone squash.
That's the type of situation there that Ahmed had created, the opening there. Maybe looking for the stroke off the referee. Would have been better off playing that one down the line. Certainly working better down the backhand channel. And he's taking his opportunities. Quickly getting the ball in. A look of puzzlement or discomfort there from John. I'm not quite sure which one it is.
But it's 8-4. And although it's still scrappy, the points are starting to roll for Barada.
And Power didn't make much effort there to move forward. It wasn't a great...
And the smile says it all, as this expression says it all. Now, is that pain of body or pain of mind showing on Jonathan's face? I certainly hope there's nothing wrong with his physical being. Well, he doesn't look a happy man, Robbo.
No, he doesn't, but I haven't seen anything that's gone on in the second part of the game. First part he seemed to be moving okay.
And that's better. But there, a little limp from him. Is he favouring that left leg?
5-9.
It's 5-9. But I think the score is almost immaterial as Jonathan, we will all be focusing our attention on his movement now for the next point or two.
This is what Ahmed must do. He must try and forget about the grimaces and what John is trying to maybe show him and just get on and play the game.
And the expression is saying, I'm in pain. No,
7-9.
something's wrong, Robbo. There's a problem here for this player. And for the good of squash, you have to hope that he's going to sort whatever the problem out between games and get back on there and show us what he can really do. But it looks as though Ahmed Barada is going to close out this second game, level the score. But Jonathan Power, with that limp, still staying in it. Amazing. Amazing. But he can't go on at this rate.
No, he's just prolonging the agony, Robert. He might be able to stay in it for a while, but Barada's going to eat him up if he continues to move like this.
And it's game ball to Ahmed Barada to level the score in this second semi-final of the Ahram World Open. The wealthiest tournament of this century. What a setting, and what tragedy for Jonathan Power at the moment. It's painful to watch. His movement has totally gone.
And that's a stroke.
Yes, the stroke finally gives the game to Ahmed Barada. Now, what can his corner do for him? Jonathan Power in all sorts of physical problems. Jonathan Power, a sad sight here, obviously in distress and pain, has called for the tournament doctor to have a look at him, see if there's anything they can do. Jonathan has a history of injuries, ankle, back, and now struggling with the right knee. Looks like the magic spray is going to be produced, and let us hope that this will do the job. For the good of the game, you have to hope that Jonathan Power is fully recovered. He seems to be moving very delicately, but we'll soon know in these first few points of the third game. Of course, the match score, 1 game all, and Barada, I'm sure, will have been told, get on with your own game, just play and move him around. It's a sad fact, it's a professional game, and he, yes, wants to win.
And I think the other point of concern for John Powers, not necessarily the injury as well, but how it affects his mind. Not the strongest guy mentally when things are stacked against him. Brilliant when he's winning, the best when he's winning.
Well, the lunge there for that ball at the front of the court showed that he's moving very gingerly, almost walking on broken eggshells as he went forward. So it obviously hasn't cleared. I know he had the treatment from the tournament doctor and the leg was massaged and sprayed.
9-2.
Will it clear as the game progresses? Well, 10-2, and the writing is clearly on the wall now. Jonathan Power is in major trouble, and there's no hiding on this squash court. He manages to get, oh my goodness me, almost gets a Dunlop ball in the eye to go with his other problems. And Barada rightly apologises.
Well, it can't be long before John shakes hands here, Robert. Certainly won't go through the motions after this game.
If it was a boxing match, I think I'd stop it. Look at that body language. He didn't even move forward. We're just going through the motions. Cross court, and it is a straight neck. But there's only one winner here. This match, to all intents and purposes, is over. And Ahmed Barada can prepare himself for the final of the World Open. Not the way we would like to see a match end, but his supporters will take it. The hand has gone out, it's 13-3, and Ahmed Barada kisses the floor, and he's in the final of the 1999 Ahram World Open with Peter Nicol. A mixture of emotions, great sadness for Jonathan Power as he loses his title, but for Ahmed Barada, new heights, the final of the World Open. Although he won't have wanted to win that way, he has to say it, he's in the final.
Jonathan Power at the beginning of the game, he played very good game at the beginning, but I tried to make the pace going at the back of the court, and he played very good game in the first game, but I don't know what happened. I didn't see him what happened because I was playing the ball in the wrong direction of him. I don't know what happened to him, but I'm sorry about him, and I wish if I can beat him in normal match, not in this match.
So, tragedy for Jonathan Power then, as Ahmed Barada goes through to take on Peter Nicol in what promises to be an electric World Open final. So, world number 2 versus world number 3 in the final is what we've got to look forward to. Quite a match then, both players on top form and fully fit. So the question now was, how are they going to hold up mentally? We caught up with Nicol to ask him how he was preparing for what could be the most important night of his career.
Well, obviously just come down and practice, just eat some food, just do the same things I've done every other day. Match isn't until at least sort of 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight, so I've got the whole day to just relax and prepare for it. I've had my practice, I'll go back and have some lunch, have quite a long stretch, have a snooze, watch a movie, and then prepare for the match. We're here to win the World Open, and it is a special title, and that's what it's always going to be part of you in your mind, eat somewhere during the day, but you just got to keep it to a minimum to start with and just relax and prepare for a match as normal. But then it's good that it's there because you need it to kick in, get some adrenaline and really get up for the match because it is a huge event.
But throughout all that preparation, these two must be thinking about each other, and of course that infamous crowd.
Yeah, I played him 2 years ago in the semi-final, and it was an amazing match. It was 3-1 to me in the end, but there were 4,000 or 5,000 Egyptians here screaming for him, so it was interesting, and I'm sure it'll be the same, if not even noisier tonight.
It's very, very good for me, but sometimes it's bad for both of us, me and the other player, but they like me and they support me, so it's good for squash. I think it's good for squash. All of these people come support the squash and watch the squash. It's good. I'll do my best and try to make a good match today, and of course I'll try to win, and we'll see what happens today, what's going to happen today, and I hope to win today.
So a very relaxed pair, but as the sun sets, the tension builds. Welcome back to one of the world's most incredible sporting occasions, the Ahram World Open Finals, here literally in the shadow of the pyramids.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
Nicol has prepared himself all year for this event, and being the World Open, there's been an extra round to battle through. Mark Challoner sharpened his concentration in the quarterfinals, and Heath did the same in the semis, but no one's pushed him to his limit, that's for sure. So this time he's ready, even for Barada.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the Egyptian number 1,
Ahmed Barada has improved so much in the last 18 months. He won this event last year. He's got all the home support he could want, and no one has really pushed him to his best either. So plenty in reserve for both, as we now join the voice of squash, Robert Edwards, and former world number 2, Chris Robertson, for the World Open Final.
So what a setting here in the desert in Giza, next to the mighty pyramids. The final of the 1999 Ahram World Open. And emotional, massive crowd, not a seat in the house to see young Ahmed Barada in the all-black kit take on Peter Nicol, who, should he win today, will not only become the world champion, but also he will retain the world number 1 position. So a lot on this one, Robbo.
Well, it is a fascinating matchup. Contrast in styles, although Peter Nicol would lead us to believe that he's going to be a little bit more aggressive than normal. A lot of pressure on Ahmed, a lot of expectation from the home crowd. A lot of pressure on Peter as well. He's a favourite to win today. His form's been good. I can't say the same about Ahmed though, Robert. I think he's looked a little bit nervous this week.
He's certainly got a lot of pressure. He's carrying a lot of aspirations on his shoulders. The whole of Egypt has risen to this young man. He's very special here in Egypt. It's almost like soccer type adulation, really. Guys, pros a little bit like the Beckhams of sport here in Cairo. And he deserves it. He's done a great job for them. Ex-world junior champion. He's come through the rankings and now a solid performer at 3 in the world on the PSA circuit. And what a galaxy of viewers. We have virtually every VIP from the world of squash in the background there. World Squash Federation, PSA, Whisper, they're all there.
Well, he's got off to a better start than he did in the semi-final against Jonathan Power. I think he lost something like the first 9 points in a row, which is something that you don't really want in a big match. But I think the last time they played was in Hong Kong, the semi-finals of Hong Kong, and Ahmed lost 3-1 there, quite comprehensively though, so to see what the home advantage does for Peter in that respect.
Yeah, certainly Peter will be playing not just Barada, but quite a crowd as well, 5,000 capacity.
And he gets his first point on the board, quick counter drop, Ahmed stretching there.
So the referee reconfirms the score and it stays the same, 1-1, first game. And I must say that the two players affording each other every courtesy, a few smiles, some nice body language here, but the Tiger's going to come out in a minute, Robbo, when this gets to get to the sharp end.
Well, I was about to say, Robert, it's pretty easy to show a bit of courtesy early on in the game, early on the match. I'm sure when it gets a little bit tighter, a little bit more critical.
And it's going to be interesting to see just what the tactics will be from Barada. His game has always been at the front of the court. That's where his skill levels are. A short game, an attacking player, very exciting. Peter Nicol, well, he's been more known to absorb, take the sting out of his opponent.
Well, that's right, Robin. I can't believe that Peter's not going to try and absorb quite a bit here. Ahmed really only knows one way, across the middle, very direct, very dynamic. There's a good example of it, holding out through the middle, very clinical when he gets the chance. You see him here, waiting for the ball, holding Peter off the tee, just playing into the open court.
Well, I think he did that just on time for us.
But getting back to Peter, very much somebody that can close the court down, very disciplined, good length, very consistent in his attitude and his whole game. And it really is a good contrast. I know Peter's been talking about being a lot more aggressive with the racket, but you have to have a game plan which is going to win each particular match, and I think he just needs to be a little bit more on the steady side today.
Richest tournament in the history of the game, this, but I don't think that will be entering the players' heads. They're not thinking about the money at the moment. They're purely thinking of any advantage they can get over their opponent.
Nice to see Ahmed there rallying a little bit, and just as I say that, he gets that rush of blood. That happens a lot. It's probably a good chance, but you've got to take them if you're going to win these big matches.
Barada had the easier route to this final when he played Jonathan Power, the existing champion. Jonathan, taking an injury, had to withdraw from the match. Peter Nicol had a massive match against fellow countryman Martin Heath. Now, you always wonder if it's taken much out of the tanks or whether it's just honed him a little bit finer.
Well, I think only Peter would know that, Robert, how his body feels. But I think if he feels quite good physically, I think it'll do him a world of good. He's experienced a lot of pressure in the semi-finals. He played extremely well to win the match.
Wonderful, colourful crowd here. Marvellous city to visit, Cairo. Love their sport.
Well, they're not going to love it, Rob, if he keeps doing that. He gets these chances. We get to see it again. It's across the middle. It's his favourite spot on the court.
He didn't settle early in his semi-final either. Barada is one of those players who plays with a lot of heart, a lot of spirit. Certainly he's going to want to settle much quicker than he has. Wants to get those short shots on, do the damage. There's an example of it.
Well, that's the bread and butter for him. Again, this is much harder than the previous mistake. Wonderful cut on the ball. I just had a feeling all week, Robert, that he seems very, very tense, very nervous about the expectations. I'm not seeing his best squash so far. This is a little bit more like it.
And we talk about his movement on the court. Barada, famous for his cross-court movement. And there, a perfect length. Picks up the point and a clenched fist.
And this is better. A lot of bite on the cross court. Look where Peter's got to play that from.
So he's back in and it's 7-9 and the tension's starting to build. He's only going to have to get close and this crowd will raise Barada. And surely a stroke. Yes, that stroke gives Peter Nicol 10-7. He's into double figures in this first game. But just 3 points separates these two men.
Peter's objective, Robert's got to be to keep the spread. Keep the gap big enough to keep the crowd quiet. Here's a nice working boast. Full extension. Couldn't quite get it. He keeps that spread, he keeps them quiet. He can play his game then.
And again, Barada puts that short ball down into the tin.
I mean, really, he should be looking to maybe hit one or two of them deep. Just settle himself a little bit more, get a bit more of an obvious opportunity. And take a little bit of pressure off his technique, because it's not easy to play that type of shot when you've got Peter Nicol chasing it. And that was a little bit better. It's so low, Holding it for the straight one, taking it across the court.
Certainly, I think Barada's at his best when he steps in front of the short line and he attacks. I realize he can't do it all the time, but that's where he picks up his points. That's where he wins his matches. Shoot him from the hip.
But you've also, in these big matches, Robert, got to play the crucial points well. And he got to 7-9. He's let Peter get away to 13-8. And that is a big deficit to overtake.
Quizzical look from Peter Nicol. Not a man given to great ranting or raving on a squash court. Terrific professional, Peter Nicol. From the day he came onto the circuit, he's always been the ultimate professional. And there, terrific disguise from him, flicking the ball across the front of the court and taking him up to game ball 14-8, Peter Nicol, and still looking very cool.
Good length again there, Robert. He's really hitting the ball very, very well straight and cross court to the back of the court.
Barada puts that one tight to the wall, takes the point, and as Peter removes some sweat.
Yeah, that's tight. Never left the wall.
But it stays game ball to Peter Nicol. And that into the tin gives the first game to Peter Nicol 15-9, and he'll be pleased with that.
Welcome back to Cairo, the Ahram World Open Finals, as Peter Nicol goes on court one game up. But the crowd still behind their local hero, Ahmed Barada, as we rejoin Robert Edwards and Chris Robertson courtside.
Well, it's quiet again now, but between games we've had the bugle blowing and the drum beating and the flag waving from the crowd as they've tried to raise Barada. But the only person he'd have been listening to is his coach, and I wonder, Robert, what advice he'd have been given in between the games.
Well, something similar to this, Robert. Getting on the ball, trying to find the back of the court first. Too many mistakes at the front, a little bit too impatient. He's got to build some sort of consistency in his game. He's going to always be aggressive. There's a time to go forward, and there's a time to go to the back of the court, and there wasn't enough substance in his game first up, whereas Peter was very solid, really just working off Ahmed's mistakes, and you're going to have to make Peter Nicol work a little bit harder than that if you want to take a world title away from him.
Would you describe that first game as being slightly nervy for Barada?
Well, I think all tournament he's looked very nervy, particularly early on in the games. It was the same against John Power. It was the same early on in his first round matches. And I think there is a lot of pressure on the man, and when you play something like Peter, who's very consistent and very steady, there's obviously going to be a level of nervousness, and are you going to be good enough to beat this guy at your best? But I mean, he's one love down now, he has nothing to lose. The crowd's quiet, he's got to get him back into the match.
Well, this is a good rally. He's getting his length into play here. Could do with a little bit more width, I think, but...
And this is obviously what the coaches have been telling him, Robert, you know, to get the ball to the back, to try and get some rally, get some substance going. But again, a simple boast from the back. And it gives Peter so much confidence when he sees them coming back from him.
Barada this summer has worked very hard on his physical being. I know he felt that he wanted to improve his ability to stay in on the big matches, hour and a half, hour and 3/4, and I know he's put a lot of work in, working with a new physical trainer. Something Peter Nicol has always had, tremendous conditioning. It's 3-1 Peter Nicol. He's had a good start in this second game. Barada's got to put the brakes on him. This Scotsman starting to look what he is, quality player.
And that last point, Robert, was a good example of Peter's ability to hit a good straight ball, put you under tremendous pressure going back. And it's so hard for somebody that likes to take the ball short. You put in the corners like that shot there, you're going to get some mistakes.
And that frustration, I don't know what he said in Arabic, but not a happy boy.
I mean, this is good length. That's going to test any technique.
4-1 Peter Nicol. Barada has to find some of that genius that we know he has.
I think it's important to note as well, Robert, that the court's playing a little bit bouncier than it has in past years here. The temperature's a little bit up. The ball's going to be a little bit more lively, and it's difficult to take it in short and get the rewards you might have got 12 months ago.
Yes, always interesting when you're playing outdoors as well. In the middle of the desert, the weather conditions change almost daily. High humidity here. And that's another damaging point on the players' bodies. They really do, over a World Championships with a 64 draw, they really can hurt themselves. It's a major effort to win a world title.
And that's a much better base point there from Ahmed. Nice and patient, waited for the right opportunity, and he made it count. Good patience. Peter's a little bit too narrow on that. He really did jump all over that volley.
So, is he coming back? 2-4 Barada. Some nice tight play from both players as they jockey for position, and Barada looks as though he's got position A at the moment. Lovely skills. Barada looks to me as though he's starting to play a little bit better here. More settled. His shot's a little bit more refined. And a little bit more patience as well.
He's mixed the tempo up nicely in the start of this game. He's got some good length, jumped on a few volleys, starting to get a few mistakes there from Peter, a few loose balls. And again, good length. Peter's in the corner there, a little bit lucky with the bounce. Nice conservative leave of the ball there. Let Peter drift into the stroke area. I'm sure I'd be doing that as well if I could.
And you can always tell what the decisions are by the crowd sounds. Chaz Evans gave the stroke on that last point. And again, the crowd respond to it.
Well, a good and nice tight drop. Force the fend up. Really look for Peter. It was marginal. Never going to get him, Rob, unless you ask.
That's for sure, and this boy isn't frightened to ask, and he's brought it back to 4-all, so is our match going to start? We know we've got the ingredients for a great one. These two players, this set in the biggest tournament of the century, the most expensive and certainly the most dramatic, and Barada's taken the lead, 5-4. This will warm the crowd up.
That's right, he's also shifted the pressure back onto Peter a little bit there. If you notice, Peter took a little bit of time to wipe his hand against the wall, just to compose himself, because he can feel the tide starting to turn a little bit. Again, much better length there from Ahmed, really starting to push Peter deep.
Now, the great thing with Peter Nicol is his experience. He has a wealth of experience and he'll adjust his game accordingly. But he's having to do a lot of work here, asking for the let.
And here comes the crowd, Robert. They're coming in. Again, weak ball from Peter there. Just held him out and pushed the drop in. It's a lot easier to win squash games if you don't put pressure on winning the shots. And he's got to be patient. When he's patient, he really does play a very difficult brand of squash to combat.
For me, it's exciting to hear a crowd getting behind a player. I don't see a problem with it. It's the way the game has evolved. It's a professional game. Players play in all sorts of conditions, all sorts of circumstances and time zones, etc. And I think when we have a brilliant crowd like we do here in Egypt, we should rejoice, not see it as a change from the old days. The old galleries that I learnt on, 20 players, and that was about it to watch. Nowadays, 5,000-10,000 people, television cameras from around the world. The game deserves it. Great game of squash.
Well, his confidence has changed now. He was missing these in the first game. Gets a bit of a lead. He can stretch, open up the face. Beautiful touch on that backhand volley.
And it's not just the players who are hurting. There, the two coaches of Barada on the right, Madat and Hisham. And the score, 10-7, Barada. feed in his supporters with some great squash now.
Well, they were going down the first game. They're all going up now. And this is the type of squash that causes all the players in the world problems. He's giving Peter Nicol a big fright at the moment.
11-7 Ahmed Barada. But Nicol, being who he is, he will really build a wall to stop this.
Well,
8-11.
what he'll probably do, Robert, he might have to take the ball in a little bit more now. He's finding it hard to pass Ahmed. And as you see, the last two balls he's taken in, won the 2 points.
9-11.
And that's a big difference, 11-7 to 9-11. Peter Nicol instantly coming back with those 2 points. And right back into this game. Barada needs this. He needs to ease it back to 1 game all.
And again, beautiful aggressive volley there from Peter. He really has changed his tactics well at the right time. He's shown the Egyptian that he can play the ball short well.
And as a lefty, Peter Nicol over the last year has impressed me with the strength of his overhead backhand. It's become a tremendous shot, great strength on it, getting good depth, length from it, and accuracy. He's improved, he's evolved, has he not?
Well, it's not for me to say he's not a great player. For the British Open World #1 title. He's fighting his way back into this World Title Championship match. His short game certainly has improved leaps and bounds over the last 12 months.
I know, a little luck, but a punch of the hand says I'll take it, and it's 11-all now. He's come right back from 11-7. The fighting spirit of the Scotsman.
Well, don't care how good you are, Robert, luck will always play a part in big days like that, and that was 100% luck.
But it's 100% point, and it's 11-all. Barada's got to get himself going again, get some points on the board. These are big points now. This is a big premium part of the game.
Hasn't the pace of the game picked up, though? Both players now fighting for the middle, fighting for the first ball in short. A little bit more aggression in the driving.
And that one's so tight. Again, a scream of anguish from Ahmed Barada.
Well, Peter Nicol really has played the last 4 or 5 points unbelievably well. That's just too tight.
Tremendous delicacy and power from both players. We've talked about how over the years the rackets have changed, and both of these players able to send the ball to the back of the court with the slightest flick of the wrist. And that one flicked into the middle of the tin. Barada has got to lift himself.
Well, this is the patience element. Not the right time. Didn't have Peter deep enough. And that's the pressure Peter's turned around on him.
13-11, 2 points, and that would give him a 2-game-to-love lead in this final, and that was weak. Barada will not be happy. It's 14-11. Peter Nicol now looking at another game point to go 2-love up in this final. And remember, whoever wins this, we have a new world champion with Jonathan Power out. One of these men will be claimed the new world champion to end this century. And Barada fights back. Still a sting in his tail.
Wow, this is a great shot. Slightly desperate. I'm not sure, but it was a great shot.
But he's still serving to save this game at 12-14. Peter Nicol still on game ball. Both players contented to play it up the walls. And now the attack and defense. Tremendous mixture of shots. And there that high backhand from Peter Nicol that I spoke about earlier. Barada in the hot seat. Yes! A lovely disguised flick across court. And it brings him to within 1 point, 13-14.
That's a great response from the Egyptian. Early on the backhand drop. Change angle quickly. Big next point.
Yes, this is a big one, Robbo. 14-13, but Barada serving. Still game ball to Peter Nicol. He's on record as saying, this is the one I want for the full set. I want to be world champion. And that fist clenches again. He's taking it 15-13. 2-love up. Peter Nicol, the world's #2. Well, a capacity crowd won't be pleased with the performance at the moment and the score for Barada, but they're having a feast of good squash, and this man is leading, Peter Nicol. He'll be happy, 2-love up, desperate to become the world champion. So the setting stays the same, but the score has changed. It's 2-love to Peter Nicol, and he's on the threshold of achieving his ultimate goal to become the world champion, the world's #1, which will go with it, with the points he'd win from winning it. His Commonwealth gold medal, British Open champion, he'll have the full set. But Mr. Barada still has something to say about it, and I'm sure he must have been looking at maybe a change of game plan coming out into this third game, Robbo.
Well, I thought his game plan at the start of the second was excellent, Robert. Built himself up a lead. He took that lead through to about 11-7, I think, or 11-8. And Peter changed the course of it by being a little bit more aggressive. He took the game away from Ahmed. I've got to be honest, Robert, I can't see what Ahmed could do to get back and win this match. Not many people beat Peter Nicol from 2-love down. A bit of frustration there, and Peter's not happy with it. The ball almost clocked him in the head.
Barada has looked nervous during this match, and as you've said, really through the tournament. There's a lot of pressure on him. This is his hometown. He is the star of the show. They absolutely worship him.
Well, this is right. The rewards for him are great if he wins. Peter would certainly be working off the fact that the home advantage for Ahmed is immense if Ahmed plays well. But when he starts to struggle, it really does work against him.
Such an inspirational player, and there on cue he shows us what he's capable of, and Barada takes the first point.
Wow, this is lovely. Nice change of angle. Not enough of them though, Robert, not enough.
Huge match. This, the star in the high-tech Super Series of programs going out worldwide that show this great game.
Well, again, choice of volley to take in short. He's reaching too much there. Balance is poor. The patience has to come back. He has to play like he did in the beginning of the second again. He's got to ask questions of Peter. And if Peter answers them, then he loses to the better player.
And we've mentioned the support that's here for Barada, but Peter Nicol has flown in some support for himself. Girlfriend Sally's come in from London. His father, Pat, who has a squash club in Scotland, and a coach himself is here with him. Quite a group.
Again, big strength there of Peters. Able to dig a difficult ball out, lift it up, give himself time to recover.
And working in the corner with Peter Nicol is his longtime coach, Neil Harvey, who's here with him for the entire tournament. Looking after him, caring for him. And what a great job he's done. Peter Nicol has become very much the class act of the era.
And if you want to see a perfect point, Robert, we've just seen one just then. Perfect length all the way around. Just held him off, put the ball in the neck. It looked like he could do that in his sleep.
And it's given him 3-1. And Peter Nicol would be delighted if this was the last game of the match. For us, I'd like to see it go to 5 and get some more squash, but...
Wow, he's so easy there, Robert. Another volley across the court.
And Peter Nicol has successfully quietened this crowd as he's leading 7-3 and by 2 games to love in this final. And he's looking good. But Barada still showing the danger. The skills of the man, chipping that ball short.
Wow, this is a great shot. I don't think Peter would be terribly worried about that, Robert. There hasn't been enough of them going up. But, as I say that, little chink. Lapse of concentration, possibly. Very unusual for Peter to play a ball like that off the serve.
Barada strikes back to bring it back to 5-7. The crowd praying for a resurgent. Another Another error from Peter Nicol, pushing that fairly easy ball into the tin.
Yeah, very uncommon. Just aimed it a little bit low. Maybe just got one hand on the trophy. Needs to take it off.
Yes,
Get back on the court.
Been working on that victory speech a little early, I think. Barada's got it back to 6-7.
You can just hear the crowd getting in on the act there, Robert, in the last couple of points. Very vital for Ahmed to get him a little bit more vocal and for Peter to quieten him down, and that's going to get him excited.
Played that rally so well, was patient, terrific depth, twice he hit him deep. And he's pleased the boys. That's the corner shouting for him. And the crowd, what a venue. 9-all. Third game. Barada desperate to get in.
He's done very well. He really has pulled himself out of trouble. And just when he needs to hit the shot, he can't do it. It's a winner. You can see Peter, he's moving straight. That's a winner.
99 out of 100 in practice, those would have been dead. Barada, just 22 years of age. What a future he's got in this game. And I'm sure if today isn't to be his day, it will occur sometime in the future. But he's thinking of now. And he's playing some great short ball squash at the front of the court, giving Peter Nicol a bit of a run round. Crowd love that.
Wow, he's very good at this. So sharp going forward. Beautiful touch on the forehand. He's showing some good guts here.
Follows a long line of great Egyptian players, going right the way back to the great Amra Bey. One of the all-time greats, Karim. In latter years, Abbas Kaoud and many others. Tremendous power from Barada, hitting that ball deep. But how cool is Peter Nicol? Looking like a Rolls Royce out there. Barada's patiently playing a mixture of great shot, sheer power and touch. And finally, the frustration of another bad shot.
Well, that was a massive point. Ahmed had him everywhere. Peter was hanging on. It was a short ball, and Ahmed didn't make him pay. You can see Peter there, he's pumped up. He knew he got away with it.
And that's 11-10 for Peter Nicol, 4 points. And his name will go in the record book. The first ever Scots player to get on that roll of honour, to follow in such names as Jeff Hunt, Jahangir Khan, Jansha Khan, Ross Norman, Rodney Martin, all the greats, latterly Jonathan Power, and he wants it. He's 12-10 up. Patient, professional, and gifted. What an ambassador for the game, Peter Nicol.
And Ahmed just gave him another little present there on the forehand drop. That's better.
Yeah, lunges for that, but too wide.
Well, he made it look like a forehand drop here. Short preparation, whipped through the ball, sent it all the way to the back.
So these are big points. 11-12. Barada serves, and he's 2 games to love down, so desperately needs to bring out the big ones now. Oh, finally that frustration again, goes for the short chip and misses it, and Peter Nicol 13-11.
Well, this is not a great shot. Peter's on the middle of the court. The shot's not on. Certainly nervous, adrenaline. A lot of factors there.
13-11, just to, oh my goodness, that is dreadful from Barada. Hits the ball into the floor, and Peter Nicol at 14-11 is on the threshold of greatness. 1 point to become the world champion. He already is the British Open champion. This will make him the world's #1. He has the gold medal from the Commonwealth Games. 1 point. Years of training. And this is it. The next 1 minute will tell us whether Peter Nicol is to become the 1999 World Open Champion. And he is, and you can see the excitement. Shakes hands with Barada, a gentleman. And Peter Nicol turns to his corner, and I don't have to say, the pictures tell you, a happy man.
Well, fully deserved, Robert. Played very, very well. Answered all the questions asked of him. Moves forward. Lovely technique. Much too good.
A good time to have a word with the new world champion.
I'm so delighted, and I'm delighted everyone's here as well to see it. My girlfriend Sally, Neil, my father, everyone's here to see it, and I've done it here in a great setting and against Ahmed as well. I couldn't have asked for anything more. It's fantastic. I feel I've now proved again that I'm #1. I think I will go back to #1. I'm now world champion, a Commonwealth gold medal winner, and the British Open current champion as well. So I've got them all. So yeah, it's the most amazing feeling to finish that off. It's great.
He played very good game today. Everything was going good for him, and I was a little bit nervous today. I don't know why, but it was a good match. What's happening? I'm going back, and I'm going to train again, and I'm going to wait to see what's going to happen.
And the photographers there catching the magic moment as Peter Nicol receives his trophy from Mr. Ibrahim Nafi, the chairman of the board and editor of Ahram, the man behind the resurgence of squash here in Egypt.